Hello and welcome to the Witch King podcast, your newest MESBG podcast focused on primarily the Scottish scene. However, we do intend to cover slightly further afield than Scotland. But my name is Andrew, more commonly known as Casper. No real reason why, but that's what I'm known as. I'm joined here by some of my other friends in the Scottish scene, Mark, Dave and Liddle. I think before we get into all of this, as it's all brand new, I think it's worthwhile starting from who we are in more detail, why we're here, what our plans are. As exciting as that sounds, hopefully it will be. I guess for myself, just to begin, why me, I guess? It's just something we had an interest in, a common interest, speaking about the Scottish scene. I've been playing the game 3 or 4 years now, something like that. I can't quite remember, but prior to that, other games like a lot of people, 40k and such and I knew all these lads as well. So yeah, why us? I guess we've all sort of been in the competitive scene. I've won tournaments here and there. We all have as well. So that's why I'm here. Mark, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm probably the least credentialed of the lot of us, but basically I've been playing sort of 3 years. Into 22 is when I started. Got a fair few tournament wins, decent amount of podiums, won top Scot last year, and I've represented Scotland twice now at WTC. So they're my sort of claims to fame, I suppose. But other than that, I like to moan about the game and play it a wee bit and all.
Sweet. What about yourself, Dave? Probably doesn't need much of an introduction. But
yeah, some people might have heard of me, but if you've been playing MESBG for a while, I've largely been around since the very early days of the game, certainly in the Scottish scene. Went to sort of countless tournaments. Currently I'm the GBHL, which we'll get onto at some point, but the GBHL rep for Scotland, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. You'll see me, if you've been to Scottish tournaments, you'll have seen me at the vast majority of them. I think played well over 100 tournaments, won a few of them here in Scotland and further afield as well. And also one of the co-TOs, the Scale and Stirlingshire, which again we'll get onto at some point, but that's the Scotland's biggest event and the longest running event in the GBHL. So yeah, I've been playing the game since 2006, I think now, so coming up for 20 years at playtime, but not really even the most experienced player on the pod, so that's over.
Well, yeah, I mean, with 2006, you think you'd be the most experienced, but I think Liddle was proudly there from the beginning, near enough. Over Talon, Liddle.
I was there before Tom Bombadil, put it that way.
I could believe that.
Alan Liddle, commonly known as Liddle. That's it. Aye, moving on. No,
Smashing.
It's good.
Yeah, you've been playing, yeah, right, from pretty much the beginning of Lord of the Rings. It was sort of, what was it called back when it was released? It was just the tabletop game or something. It had a strange name, didn't it?
The very first edition of the rules was the Fellowship of the Ring strategy battle game.
That's the one, yeah.
It was released to coincide with the first film coming out in 2001.
Like the rest of us, Liddle's been multiple events, represented Team Scotland, done all sorts, haven't you? Hosted events. He's gone as well, which is good timing. Technical hitch right off the bat. But yeah, Liddle has been at multiple podiums, multiple winning events, and he is the main runner of the Top Scot ranking system, which we'll come on to later. But yeah, in short, we've all sort of been around the block a little bit. Mark's obviously a bit newer to the scene, which is great. I've got a kind of good range of experiences and interests. We've all sort of been there or thereabouts to multiple GBHL events and had an interest in that. So anyway, that's why we're here. That's who we are, so to speak, which actually brings us nicely on to sort of why we're here and why we're talking about these things. Yeah, the sort of the aim of this is to kind of just personally, I feel that in terms of the Scottish scene, we have an okay coverage, but we are sort of um, don't have the same amount of coverage, I guess, sort of the English events have, and it's understandable. We have kind of less 100-point GBHL events. Um, and as a result, maybe a sort of less of our interest in some of the events that we run, which is not entirely fair, but for no real reason, really. It's just that we don't have anyone doing the coverage that we intend to do. Also, really, from a personal point of view, I do think sometimes when you win an event or you podium or you have a good result at an event, there's a bit of an anticlimax at the end of it where you sort of just leave and it's sort of what are you going to next. So we do intend to have some interviews with some of the winners from events, maybe speaking to them about how their games went, but also as well focus on maybe the hobby side of things as well. So who's doing well at the painting, most sporting, things like that as well. It's good to get a bit of a look into these topics rather than it just being sort of right, what's next, what's next, what's next, and sort of maybe have a deeper dive into the things we find kind of fun as well. So that's where I kind of started. What about you guys? What's of interest to you?
Well, for myself, it was definitely it's the more competitive side of the game for myself. That's kind of got into it as sort of my competitive outlet primarily, and that's kind of where I can speak from for the most part. I've started picking up more painting sides over the last sort of 6 months or so, maybe. After last season being as sort of high pace as it was, the amount of tournaments I was attending and everything. Um, just with life getting busier this year, kind of dropped off a wee bit and started focusing a little bit more on the hobby side after having achieved basically nothing in that space up until now. But primarily for myself, it was the very much the competitive side of things that had me interested.
Yeah, cool. I think we all have a kind of similar goal. I mean, Dave, is there anything or Liddle you'd like to add in terms of what we could achieve with this, what people might find of interest, or yourself? What's your ideas?
So I think, yeah, I mean, largely what you said, similar from my own point of view. Largely a competitive gamer, but also like a huge amount of my focus and sort of efforts are on community building, and having been there since the very early days, which I think something we might touch on after this is the very early days of the Scottish scene when there really wasn't a lot of players at all, and having helped with the guys who were playing back then, just sort of attending tournaments and then seeing more TOs come in and just trying to get to as many tournaments as I can and like really help the Scottish scene build. So being involved with podcasts like this seems like a great sort of next step for that, because really right now the Scottish scene's in a great place, and as you said, like if we can shine a bit of light on that, I think that's only a positive thing because there's so many tournaments now that we've gone for having maybe like one tournament a year to now a couple of tournaments every month. So putting a bit of spotlight on the guys that are running events as well as the people that are taking part and doing well at all sort of aspects of the hobby, be that playing, painting, etc. Just putting a bit of focus on that, and then from my own point of view, trying to do as well as I can at events as well. Like I'm still very much keen on the competitive side of things, so trying to get a few wins under my belt where I can.
Yeah, I think we're all trying to attend as much as we can, really. What about yourself, Lido? What's your you're our Mr. Top Scot, so to speak. What sort of things do you reckon we could be covering here that's going to be of interest?
No, just echoing the other guys there. Like play competitively quite a lot. Uh, win some, lose more. Um, like advertising events for the guys through obviously me running Top Scot. That was just a kind of thing I wanted to try out. I don't know if you're wanting this in the now.
No, don't go. Talk about what you want. The floor. The mic is your floor. That's definitely not the saying, but yeah, you can go ahead, mate. It's good to have you here because you have a lot of like unique insight. You put a hell of a lot of effort into growing the Scottish scene, and at times I think that's not hugely acknowledged or respected. But I mean, um, is it something that you like? Why? why is it that you've in the past put the effort into like growing the scene? Because you do a lot really in terms of bringing new players in, pushing events, promoting events, running events. Like, what kind of draws you to that?
It might kind of go back to when I was part of a committee. Some people have heard more about that than others. And coming off of that, it was like a gaming committee. Stepping away from that, it was just something to do at the time. And obviously, the more events, it became bigger than what I at first imagined. But it's not really something that I want to stop doing because people are enjoying it.
What was the first like Scottish event, or was it Common Ground? What was the first event you ran?
I ran. That would have been Last Alliance at Common Ground.
Really? Was that before like all the battle company stuff? I mean, I don't, because I kind of came late to the scene, but I remember. Oh, was Scouring first? Was Scouring before Last Alliance?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
All right.
it's, I can sort of give you a bit of brief history of the Scottish scene if that's a useful time to do it. But Scouring Stirlingshire was the first one of those was in 2013, and I mean at that point there really wasn't very many people in Scotland playing the game. The GBHL or Great British Hobart League, which again most of the people listening will probably be familiar with, but the GBHL is the UK-wide league for the game, and that was set up in 2013 with an idea to get people continuing to play the game, because at that point in time it was sort of during the Hobbit era of the game where it was much less popular than it used to be. Games Workshop weren't supporting it as much as they had been, and the GBHL was set up just to really get people playing. And that first year there was 10 tournaments throughout the UK. Scout and Stirlingshire was the only one in Scotland. I'd been to a couple of the ones down in Stockport at Element Games, and I'd spoken to some of the guys there and said, like, if we did run a tournament in Scotland, do you think you'd travel up for it? And thankfully, a few of them did. So we had 7 Scottish players at that point in time and 5 guys that travelled up from England. So first year was 12 players. That was in 2013. And for the first, I think, 4 years, yeah, I want to say, yeah, from 2013 to 2017, there was only really Scouring. 2013 to 2016, there was only Scouring, and then other tournaments started to appear in 2017. A couple of them being non-GBHL events, but just sort of more casual, smaller events. But good sign that the scene was growing. Ones like, even if you were only getting a dozen players, but there were a dozen players that were all Scottish players. And then in 2018 is when we started to get a few more GBHL events. I think we went up to a total of 3. And then in 2019, just before COVID, we sort of started to see a little bit of a rise with a couple of other tournaments coming onto the scene, which was Battle of Clydewater at the time down in Lanark. It's now in Bathgate, and it's sort of firmly established as one of the GBHL 100 events. And Liddle came in with Last Alliance in 2019 as well, also at Common Ground in Stirling, and at the time it was a doubles tournament, I believe.
I missed that. Yeah, it definitely used to be doubles, didn't it?
Yeah,
That was the first year I played it, which was would have been 2022.
and those other tournaments at that time were having sort of teens, like close, not far off 20 players. Like Scouring at this point had been up to 58 players, which was huge, like a huge jump in from 12 players in 2013 up to selling out the venue in 2019, and it's continued to strength there. But then COVID hit. We took a little bit of dip in terms of there was obviously no events during the COVID period, but I think what seemed to happen is we'd had like a bunch of new players who'd just started dipping their toes in before COVID, and a lot of folks seemed to use the COVID period as a time to build armies, paint armies, just go back and do the sort of hobbies that you could do during lockdown, like things like painting models, and that seemed like a cool thing to do. And we came out of lockdown, and suddenly there seemed to be like an explosion in the Scottish scene with loads of new players. And I think Last Alliance in 2021, which was the second one, had like almost doubled in size. Clydewater gained much bigger than it was. And then 2022, we started to see a whole bunch of tournaments propping up, be that in There's one in Edinburgh and up in Elgin at the very far north of the country, which is like 3-4 hour drive for us. Bathgate become a bit of a hub with a few tournaments happening there, over in Ayr, on the coast as well, and then obviously Lathlands and Skowron both in Stirling. And then it's again just for their strength to strength, really 2022, 2023. We started seeing more of them. Glasgow became again another bit of a hub for events. There's a whole bunch popping up there. I think we're up to about 14 tournaments by this point, and then the last 2 years we're now hitting over 20 tournaments in Scotland alone, which if you were to say to me back in 2013, did I think that was a possibility? Bear in mind there was only 10 tournaments in the entirety of the UK in 2013. The fact that we've now got 20 plus in Scotland in a year, and I think there's something like 120 odds in the UK overall, in the space of this 12-year period is massive. Like, and this now I think makes it feel, at least to me, the perfect time to start something like this, because there is a lot of stuff we can be covering, and as you say, putting that spotlight out there on a scene that hasn't had it really before. I mean, not to say we've not had some coverage, because we have, like, some of the bigger events have been covered on some of the other podcasts. There's other like people that cover GBHL events, and we have had mentions, but putting that spotlight firmly on the Scottish scene and the efforts of the TOs and the attendees that are coming and making these events what they are, because like you need players for you to have a scene. There needs to be an interest. There needs to be players, and giving them that wee bit of reward, they like a bit of coverage, even if it's just you're not necessarily the person being interviewed, but you maybe played that person. It's quite interesting to hear their thoughts on your game, and getting like a painter or that on that's to showcase like some of the models and stuff. I think that's it's really cool, because I think Middle Earth is a little bit an underground scene in some ways. I mean, the amount of times, I don't know, you said you'd played 40k, Casper. I mean, I think we all maybe have dipped into other games in the past. I played 40k very briefly, but it was a long time ago now. But sometimes if you're in a gaming store, someone will come in that's maybe like a 40k player or the Age Sigma or something like that, and they'll see you playing SPG and they'll be like, oh, people play that. I'm like, aye, a lot of people play it actually. Like it's got quite a thriving scene. Maybe not in terms of overall players, but certainly for like a tournament scene, I feel like there's more events running regularly in Scotland for SPG than there are for some other games. And yeah, as I say, great to be able to focus on that. So
yeah, I mean, everyone has a soft spot for Lord of the Rings. I think everyone recognises it instantly. But this painting, yeah, like the hobby side, I think, of this game is not to. We have a lot of haters for saying this, but with 40k, it's a bit more. I don't know if sweaty is the right word, because the thing is, it's not like we're not competitive and play to the rules, which could be is like considered sweaty, but there's a lot more like even like your tournament winners and in Lord of the Rings, there's still that side of like hobby as well. I think people take quite a lot of pride in terms of the representing their arm. I don't know. I don't know how you feel, but I feel like there's a bit of that in this.
I think SPG is interesting from that point of view as far as the competitive scene's concerned, and that there does seem to be. I think maybe part of it's to do with the rule set and how slowly it's historically has changed before, where you have this sort of culture to a degree in games like 40k where often rules can change quite quickly and people buy in armies and they maybe don't necessarily have the same amount of time between an army coming out, being good, and it then or becoming relevant competitively before it then potentially drops off again. I think that kind of time period is maybe a bit longer for SPG. I think I've certainly seen that effect. You seem to have a lot of pretty sort of nicely painted armies, high quality armies, turning up at events pretty regularly. Whether that's I'm sure that's common in other systems as well, but certainly there seems to be.
I mean, I've been taking 40k tournaments. People are playing with bases and playing with all sorts of rubbish. So like, there's definitely, I mean, bit of a shout out to Dave Farmer. I mean, he's one of the best players in terms of the GBHL, and he was showing me when we were at the event in Glasgow, like some of the Minas Tirith and things he'd painted, and you make a good point actually, because probably people have had these models for these like ages, and it just means that obviously you've got more time to like actually invest into them rather than it just being like, oh, the new Tau book's out or whatever, and yeah, they just chuck rubbish on the table.
There's also the nature of the game. I think generally I found is that there's a lot of well, it's maybe a bit of a conversation as to how true this is in the new edition, but there's certainly a lot of a wide range of models and a wide range of armies are viable in different competitive settings that you see commonly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different armies that people could pick up that they recognise from the films or think are cool, that they're like favourite bit that they want to put a little bit of time into, and make look nice. That they can pick up and play, and still place well at tournaments. And I think that has a big effect. Is how sort of how viable a wide range of different armies are, means that there's a lot of interest in armies, a lot of aesthetically pleasing
Yeah.
armies for people that folk can pick up and enjoy hobbying with, and then go on to continue using for a reasonable length of time.
I think that's a good point. Just so Dave mentioned earlier GBHL, and I guess we're not entirely sure if we have any listeners, but if we have any listener from outside of the scene to explain the GBHL, was, I mean, I'm going to give you like my noob understanding of it. It's effectively like a Dave, you might be better putting this into words, but my understanding is it's effectively like an agreed league, effectively, a bit of like a, as much as like the English Premier League is for football, it's such as like it's a UK or British wide, UK wide league. I'm just going to stop here and let you explain it, Dave, because I'm talking rubbish.
No, that's fine. So as I say, I touched on it earlier, but the Great British Hobbit League was set up in 2013, and it really was at the time when the game was nowhere near as strong in the community as what it is now. And it was really the idea is bring players together from all over the UK if we can, and just get some people playing the game. And it's grown massively from then, because at the time, they say there was like 10 tournaments that first year, and maybe the biggest one had like 30 players, something like that. And the league itself maybe had like 100 people, and that was like 100 people that were actively playing the game in the UK. And now there's over like 1,500 players that have attended at least an event in the last 12 months. And there's, I say, like 120 odd tournaments. And because of that, it obviously has grown arms and legs. So it is now run by an elected committee of people who sort of set the ground rules for what tournament organisers need to do to be a part of the GBHL, but it is a very light touch in that largely the tournament organisers have the tournament organisers say in terms of what they want to do with their event, in terms of any extra rules that they want to put in, what scenarios they're using, what prizes they're giving away, like round timings, venues, all that sort of stuff is that's down to them. But in terms of like getting a spot in the calendar, you need to apply to the GBHL to get a slot in the calendar. You need to make sure that it's just to make sure people aren't stepping on each other's toes. So, for example, in Scotland, as well as Ireland and Northern Ireland, which is in our region, you can only have one event on the same weekend. That sort of thing. So there are rules there, and in terms of contributions as well, every TO contributes a certain amount of money to the league, so either 10, 15 or £20, depending on what rating of event they have. And that goes towards your sort of year-end prizes. So just by attending a GBHL event, you go into the GBHL rankings and you score points at that event. And if whether it's a GBHL 80, a 90 or 100 is the top level of points that are given. So the GBHL 100s are more competitive because the winner gets 100 points for the rankings, and that scales down based on how many players are at the event and where you finished. So if you were at a 40 player GBHL 90 and you finished 20th, you're going to get roughly about 45 points because you're in the middle of a GBHL 90. So and then come the end of the year, there's prizes given out for a number of things, and this is something like in the first year we were just giving out 3 prizes for first, second and third, but over time it's really growing, and there's now prizes for your best painters, there's prizes for the people who pick up the most sporting awards throughout the year. There's your main prizes, which are for the people who have you combine your best 6 scores. So in theory, the maximum is 600 if you went and won 6 GBHL 100s. Although it's a very, very difficult thing to do, but people have done it. And the top 3 people at the end of the year get some cool prizes, which is usually like a trophy and maybe like a replica sword, that sort of thing. And then they've introduced regions as well, which is where I come in. So my position on the GBHL committee is the representative for the Scottish, Northern Irish, and Republic of Ireland region. And that is like to allow people to have something to play for without having to travel too far a distance. It's your best 4 scores, but only from tournaments within your home region. So for us, obviously all based in Scotland, any tournament that we go to in Scotland, or if we travel across the water to Northern Ireland or Republic of Ireland, any of those points, they'll count for our main Great British Hobbit League score, but they also count for our regional score as well, and it's your top 4 scores at the end of the year is your regional score, and again, top 3 there get given a trophy, and then sometimes you get some other stuff as well. And I think myself and Mark were both did well enough last year to finish in the top 3, so you both get a trophy that's given out at the end of the year award ceremony, which kind of moves from place to place. Last year it was in Nottingham, it's in Newcastle this year, and yeah, that's kind of what the GBHL is. They've got a website which we could probably link in, obviously massive hub on Facebook, and yeah, it's kind of managed by the committee, but really pushed out there by the TOs, like everybody, the TOs and the players, because you need TOs who are running events and you need players attending events. The committee are just there to kind of coordinate everything, and obviously if there's any like disputes or stuff like that, like deal with all that sort of stuff, but buy the prizes and sorting out the calendar and setting out the ground rules for things. But
yeah, I mean, obviously that's the GBHL. I guess for most people, I mean, the thing is you have such a in-depth look into. I think for your average tournament goer, often what we do is you look at it to see, is it a GBHL event, and in terms of that, there's definitely a bit of stigmatism in terms of it being not a GBHL event, and I guess. That's something maybe.
Few events are non-GBHL events.
Say that again, sorry?
But very few events are non-GBHL events these days.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, I don't know about you, Mark, but I'll hold my hands up. I'm a bit snobby about it because there's so few events maybe I can attend recently, and what I'm looking for is the GBHL points, not necessarily to do well in the overall league. The regions are a bit more interesting for us, like you mentioned. You guys done well. I done quite well last year as well. I think he's pipped me at the post, annoyingly. But I think if you can only attend a few, and I guess it depends what your goal is, because my goal generally every year is to try and get back to Team Scotland, which is a massive decider, having where you finish in the league. Also, the Nations Cup is the new sort of event that's started up second year running now. And without it being GBHL, I mean, it's not like it's lesser of an event. It just means that it's a bit less competitive, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I think what you get for your money in terms of GBHL is really good. It's
Yeah, you definitely. I think the GBHL events typically are fantastic value. There's very, very few I've ever been to that I've ever walked away thinking, well, I wish I spent my money somewhere else. In fact, I don't think that's ever actually happened. I'm similar to you in that I tend to, certainly this year, where I've only been able to go to 4 events so far this year, whereas last year I think by the end of it I'd been 16 or something in that area, 15, something like that. And so I'm looking for the GBHL events, the ones that I'm going to, because I want to get those points and try and qualify for Team Scotland and all the rest of it. But I think there's a lot of value, as you say, as well in the non-GBHL ones. You tend to get a different sort of. So it's very much a different feel, different sort of way of playing the game. You get a lot less people being competitive at events like one that Liddle runs, the unexpected event that runs every year. It's always pretty class, and also with it being non-GBHL, it tends to be cheaper entry as well, and you tend to get people that are playing around with a few kind of less competitive things and trying to have a bit of fun with it. And you're less likely to run into some nasty matchups against scary armies that you don't want to have to play against, and things like that. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely fantastic value events, the GBHL ones, but there's a lot to be said for the non-GBHL ones floating around as well, even though there's not so many of them.
I think, like, even if you're like a new player listening, or you're thinking about getting into the hobby, maybe you've got models sat there, it just seems to be one of those games that people have like old, I don't know, Fellowship lying around or Moria Goblins. People have it lying around from years ago, and if it is something you're considering getting into, and if you see an event, it's a GBHL event, and the way you would see that, generally speaking, if all these things run through Facebook, I would probably be off Facebook if it wasn't for the hobby, because it's pretty much, there's a lot going on in there. We have the Scottish, I'll put it in the description. I can't really remember the link for it, but there's a Scottish page which has all the events posted on there by Liddle, which is great. My point though is I wouldn't be put off by it being GBHL. It's not like
Scottish Middle Earth players.
There you go, Scottish Middle Earth players. I wouldn't be put off by that if you're a new player. Generally speaking, the attendance is great, and there's a whole range of like experience, skill levels, and I guess overall goals. And not everyone goes to these events and is like absolute sweaty trying to win them, I guess, like we are. But there's a range of it, yeah.
And as you say, there's a lot of players that, I mean, the kind of the feeling of the scene generally, there's really not very many people that I've ever played against and walked away having bad experiences. And I mean, Dave mentioned that you get that there's prizes within the GBHL for being the most sporting, and certainly within the Scottish scene, I think has it been won by a Scottish player the last 2 years? Is that right?
We've had Scottish players on the podium for all 3 of the years since it's been introduced.
Shout out. Who's that? Was it Tom? Tom's old as well in that.
Yeah, Tom. I think the first year Tom
won it, didn't he?
and Tom was second, I think, and then Chris Murphy won it the second year, and then Douglas Moore last year was just picked at the final event and was second. So yeah, no, we've had a good representation for Scottish players on the Friend of Middle Earth is the name of the award, but that's the award given out to people who get the most sporting awards at the end of the year. It's always a nice thing. And I think just recently, when you mentioned the Nations Cup, the Team Scotland that were at the Nations Cup, which none of us were on, to be fair.
Let's not speak about the results.
They did win most sporting. They did win most sporting team, which again is a nice reflection of the scene.
Yeah, that's true. They've done well, getting blasted by everyone, right? But
they won something, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you better win something, I guess. Yeah, so I guess in general that's the GBHL. Just to reiterate, we're predominantly all in sort of Facebook groups, and there is a whole lot of community chat in there. I've not really planned on speaking about it much, but we all have teams within the Top Scot umbrella, as well as, in fact, no, that's not a lie. There's no teams in Top Scot, but there's teams within the GBHL, isn't there?
Yeah.
That we're all part of.
Teams is something that I've been thinking about doing, but it's not really being sanded off.
It's another relatively new thing. I think it's been running this is the 3rd year of GBHL teams, and it's a case of you sign up to a team with up to 8 you and up to 8 your mates, so teams of 9, obviously reminiscent of the fellowship number and the 9 wraiths and stuff, and it's your best 10 scores as a team, but each player can only contribute 2 scores. And again, that's rankings for that are kept on the GBHL website, which we can link in.
Yeah.
And we have, amongst the 4 of us, I think there's only 2 different teams represented. I am not on a team.
Yeah, Dave
try
has
to stay unbiased.
Uber stubbornness of being Switzerland and not joining a team, but
we do have a couple other teams represented here.
Yeah. But yeah, look, have a look. If you're new, most of you guys, I'm assuming, won't be, but get on the Facebook group. Maybe look for us if you want. Hit us up. But the scene's growing. It's brilliant. It's a great game to get into if you're just learning as well, because the rules don't change massively. Aragon does what Aragon does near enough every other edition, more or less. You know what I mean?
It's a dead simple game. You've got a ring. But
it's probably worth touching on that.
Yeah. Other than that, I think he's pretty much the exact same stats as he's been since day one.
Yeah.
It's probably worth touching on the fact that we have just recently had a new edition, which again I think is another good reason for us to start this podcast here, because new edition always brings in new players, and I think the last edition, which was the first edition, it was called Middle Earth Strategy Battle Game, and this is the second one with that title. But typically they'll last for around 5 years. It's not like your 40Ks and Age Sigmars where they are having that quicker like refresh rules. But as you say, they do. Aragorn is very similar to the same Aragorn profile that was released in 2001.
That ring annoys me, right? Because a bit of a segue here. I wish you could roll for the resist on the ring before you actually have to spend your will. Maybe that'd make it too good, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you can only, it's like a last ditch thing, like you have to like spend your will and decide if you're going to resist it, and then after that you can roll a jammy 6. But it'd be so much better, maybe OP, if you could just like roll it first. A bit like like your Arnor save, like you can do that
But then
before your
foresight.
Yeah, the fourth.
yeah. So anyway, yeah, like Dave said, new edition. It doesn't change too much, so it's great to get into it. You can learn a lot. I probably didn't, introduce it massively well. We're learning how to podcast, so bear with us. But
I learned on the job.
yeah, the main thing is here we're just kind of four guys who love the game. We play a lot of events in Scotland. I just want to chat about it because we don't have much coverage in Scotland. I do genuinely think that after an event, it's nice to be able to talk a bit about things, a bit more detail, and just chat rubbish. To be honest, that's kind of why we're here, really.
Means if anyone goes to an event and ends up getting a podium, the name might well pop up here.
Yeah. Well, actually, we've done our first interview with Andrew Stone, who won the last Alliance event in June. So I maybe put a wee clip in here just so you can see what kind of content you could maybe expect. But the idea is just to pick people's brains, maybe sort of chat a bit more about their event and things. So I'll drop a wee clip here.
Last winner off the table. There was he had one last sort of like Hail Mary to try and stop me getting my last wounded, I think it was, off the board, and his Legacy had been terrible at hitting like the whole game. So he rolled his 3 shots to hit the one person who was holding the wounded in the sort of escape zone, and he rolled 3 2s. And he was like, "Oh, thank God!" He's like, "I've hit something." And I was like, "Oh, it's like you hit on 3s because I've got an elven cloak." Yeah, so that was a bit of a sore one for him. But yeah, really nice guy. Yeah, a really good game.
In terms of that sort of who we are, what we want to do, it's going to be kind of naturally kind of growing. We don't really 100% know where this will go, but if it does have any interest, people let us know what you'd like to hear about. If we're talking too much rubbish or too boring, whatever, we can take it. I think. Be nice, just be nasty to them. That's what I would say. What I'd then like to talk about, if Mr. Liddle is able to comment, is we have mentioned quite often about the top Scot ranking system, similar to the GBHL, really. I think when we started this podcast, Liddle was moaning at me, saying that it's not going to be Scottish enough, or maybe not that it's going to be Scottish. Like, when we look at it, you're sat there, you're sat there with your Team Scotland jersey on, probably eating a
Represent.
Yeah, you got a Tunnock's tea cake and shortbread.
Maybe get that for next time.
Yeah, that's if there is a next time. I might kick you off.
I think the app's doing that itself.
Yeah, you may have noticed if you're watching, because we're predominantly audio only, but if you are watching, Liddle may be leaving and joining multiple times because he has the technical capability.
I just get fed up. Like, that's it. I don't know. I need like a 10-second cool down period.
The technical difficulties have been tricky. There's a reason I had to just go and dive and put my light on. It was daylight when we started.
Yeah.
That's why
so
my
anyway,
camera went off.
Well, every 15 minutes, Liddle reckons he has to leave and join, which is it's professional to say the least.
Something different,
It could be like you're.
How many other people can say that?
That's true.
I'm the only one.
Come to the Witch King podcast where we talk rubbish and the quality and the production is rubbish, and Liddle has to leave and join.
I'm not making money for it, so
Yeah.
Not yet.
Right. So my point in terms of the Scotland thing was that I thought I'd make the introduction to the first top Scot as Scottish as we can be. So here we go, guys. Hello, guys.
To wear the kilt is my delight. It is not wrong, I know it's right. The islanders would be in
Hello,
a
guys.
fright.
It's for all you English listeners or people outside of Scotland. That's the song we wake up to. It's everyone's alarm. I'm pretty sure we go to bed listening to that song as well.
Pretty much 24/7,
I hear that every day, yeah.
When we're out hunting the haggis, it's always quite a good song just to have on. It kind of puts the haggis to sleep. Just so pretty much nice and Scottish, isn't it, Liddle?
Bash it over the
head. So, Top
Drop
Scot.
out the time. Top Scot.
Well, Top Scot is. I'll hand it over to you, but in general terms, Top Scot, where would you like to, in your best Liddle way, describe what Top Scot is?
That's the Scottish League. There you go. Job done.
Right, good. Catch us next week.
Alright. Basically, originally when the GBHL had its regions, we were tossed in with the north of England, and that was no fun. So I decided to start Top Scot as something for just us Scottish guys to aim for. Have always, there's always been a most sporting, and Dave is better with the history.
No, I think
I'm the one that runs it.
2019, I think, is when you. 2020 is when you first started it, but that first season lasted for 3 years because of COVID. And I think in the first year,
I had most sporting and painted there. No,
those are slightly newer editions. They weren't in the first year.
Aye, I thought so. But basically, it was just a case of roughly simplify things for myself. Don't want to give myself too much work, so it's pretty much you go to an event. If you're in the top 10 of the event, first gets 10 points, second gets 9, third gets 8, so on, so forth. And it was just a case of your top 4 scores. Your 5th will come in if there's a tiebreaker, 6th, 7th, again, so on. Again, try to file the edges down a bit, make it a bit more competitive. So after the first 2 years, it became a GBHL event. 80s would hand out 8 Top Scot points. Then 90s would hand out 9. The 100s would be 10. However, given the fact that you would get a lot of the English coming up our way to win those juicy 100 points, which they always did, it was going to be like a top. You'd have 3 chances. So if you're in first, second, or third, and you're the only Scottish player, you would get the 10 points. Then you would have another 3 chances for the 9, the 8, and so on. If there was a 3 non-Scottish player gap, those points would be lost. You would miss those out.
See, I think there's a lot of confusion. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't really know that's how it worked.
There's a brief summary on the in the featured section for the Scottish Middle Earth Players page on Facebook. I'm thinking of putting in the possibility of having more 10s available for next year, because there are only 3, given the fact that there's 3 100s. Some of the bigger events, perhaps, would be the ideal ones. Might even add in extra points for the painters / more sporting. I mean, it's a bigger thing. Winning more sporting, winning more players.
It's worth explaining that then, because we're talking here about first, second, third, fourth in finishing place, but there is also, that's the overall, what categories is there within Top Scot? I know is there painting?
There's Top Scot itself, which there's trophies for first, second, and third at the end of the year. There's Top Painter, which is just best painted, most painted awards throughout the year. Again, all these events have to happen in Scotland. So if you went down to an English event or Irish event, you wouldn't get Top Scot points because you're not in Scotland. Funnily enough, that's where it can differ from the GBHL region, because David won it last year, but Mark Capewell won Top Scot.
Yeah, I won the region last year, but again, that's because one of the big points I picked up were over in Belfast in Northern Ireland. So I got like 98 points or something for GBHL, but that's not a Top Scot event because it was in
Got a lot of
Belfast.
points at Ardacon, didn't you?
Yeah, I got a reasonable amount of points at Ardacon as well. Although again, they don't count for the regional league just because they're like that was in
No,
Manchester.
they're not in the region yet.
I can't believe
One
that
thing I guess when we're mentioning GBHL there is that Top Scot does give you scope to you can still get Top Scot points at non-GBHL events. So some of the more casual events, you can still be getting Top Scot points at them, which is nice.
Non-GBHL events, as Mark touched on, an unexpected event, or in this case, it's now another unexpected event. Pretty much one of the events that I try and run at the start of the year. Look forward to that. That's a non-GBHL event. It just gives me the freedom to do any kind of pack that I want, and that'll be 8 points. That'll pretty much count as a GBHL 80 in that regard. I think the first year, I can't remember the first year, it might have just been a basic event. Second year, I had a like good versus evil system. Obviously, the good only played the evil, and then there was like a top overall player, which was me, and then like a good, a top good general and a top evil general. Third year was a mystery doubles, so it was just a case of show up on the day and randomly get handed a doubles partner. Didn't matter if your armies clashed. I think there was, the Ent player did team up with the Ent player, and their lists were identical. That was cool.
Yeah, I played against them. That was John McIndoe and Andrew Kerr. And funnily enough, at that tournament, my mystery doubles partner was myself.
John Craig it was.
Oh, was it John Craig? That was it.
Oh, wait, actually, Mark, was that one of your first? When was that? What year was that?
That would have been 2022, wouldn't it?
I feel like I sort of remember that, but not recognizing you at the time, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it must have been like my third event or something like that. I came second in the end.
With yourself on a doubles
technically.
event.
Yeah, well, I brought
another the handsome guy won it though.
Oh, well, that was yourself, and was it Joseph you were with?
Wait, is that?
No.
There was a year I came second. That might have been that year. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Joseph Smith. Maybe.
But your gimmicks never seemed to line up for me because I had that, and then the next year when you did the mercenary, I got my own mercenary as well.
Yeah. No, that was at Last Alliance.
That was it. Sorry.
The mercenary. I did bring the mercenaries back for another unexpected event, but you brought your own. So like if you had if you were bringing a good army, you would have 80 points to spend on a evil mercenary unit, which could just be one guy. It would be a goblin captain leading X amount of goblins, whatever.
Oh, aye.
If you had evil, then you would have to have a good mercenary kind of thing. I was going to have something for this year that was like everyone would have to have a person that has or had a ring of power. But again, given that it was a new edition, I was like, it's better just to knock that on the head and just run out the red carpet for the new edition and just let people take what they want and try it out.
One thing I will give you, Liddle, is you do try some crazy things, whether or not, and you do get a lot of backlash in terms of some of your mad ideas. But
I wouldn't go as far as saying a lot. Come on.
Are you joking? Some of the rubbish you come out with.
We'll no touch on fast, right? We'll just go straight past that. But I mean, the Middle-earth Games, I mean, that hands out it's a unique event that hands out a lot of trophies.
Yeah.
12 now, maybe 13.
For the new listeners, right? Mr. Liddle was giving me into trouble for calling the podcast Witch King because it doesn't make it clear what it's about. However, talking about the Middle-earth Games, it is an event referred to as the Meg that has been illustrated by a shark. There are events there's a custom scenario called the 5 Teeth of Meg. However,
and they've always tied in to some degree with some shark-themed film.
Yeah, the Liddle obviously
just the one shark-themed film. Come on.
Yeah,
Did you not give away a copy of Ghost Shark to me?
That was the that was year
Oh, he's
two.
gone. He's gone.
He's
It's
gone.
probably for the best.
His 15
It's just
minutes are up.
it's
and
just
he's
a bit of a
kicked
meme,
out.
like a wee extra giveaway at the end of the event. If you've not won a trophy,
I
there's a
don't know
good
how
chance.
we take
There's a
Top
chance that
Scot to
you
you
can win a
guys.
signed DVD.
I mean, I guess if
that
I
is
was
a short DVD,
playing devil's
a signed
advocate,
DVD by
I'd be
me.
wondering,
Who
is
else
it
would
just
you
the
want
same
to
as
sign it?
GBHL? And
No.
I know that
So
it's been covered a bit, but what are the main points that you think in terms of the Top Scot? Because it came under a bit of criticism recently. I think a bit harshly, to be honest.
I think one of the things is that you can play in Top Scot without having to leave Scotland at all, whereas to play in the GBHL region, you don't have to go over to the hundreds in Ireland, but I mean, I'd strongly advise it. One, because it's a great trip, like, and some really excellent tournaments that are ran over there by the likes of Michael Bradford and Conor Glover, people like that. But also for the big points, like, so if you want to do well in the GBHL region, not going to a couple of hundreds is probably not a great idea. And if you want to do well in the GBHL itself, you really need to be travelling consistently to down to England and stuff like that. And I don't think really nowadays there's anybody in the Scottish scene doing that. Like, I used to do it a lot back before there was as many Scottish tournaments as what there are now. I did manage to get a third place in the GBHL in 2017, but that was a lot of travelling, like travelling at least once a month to like places like Manchester and Nottingham, Stockport, like even as far down as London or even further than that. So I think having something that's just in Scotland, just for Scottish players as well, it does give something extra for people that like don't want to travel. So like that's a nice thing. And there can be, as we seen last year, there can be some differences because you got a podium in Top Scot, didn't you, last year, Casper?
Yeah, I've got my trophy in my cabinet behind me, sitting proud.
And whereas I missed out, I won the GBHL region, but I missed out on the Top Scot podium because again I'd picked up a lot of points over in Northern Ireland that didn't then translate into Top Scot points. So I think it's good for seeing who the best Scottish player is in Scotland, whereas the region and the GBHL can sort of define things differently because it's maybe who the best Scottish player is overall or the best Scottish player that's willing to put that bit of time into travelling. But
you were the best Scottish traveller.
Extra.
I can't believe, right, as a slight segue here, when we're doing the intros, probably all a bit nervous because it's the first time we're doing this, so to bear with us, but Dave Reed, or Mr. Dave Reed, is actually won Ardicon, and you didn't even flex that. I can't believe you didn't.
No, I mean, we're going to get to that, I guess, at some point in time, but yes, no, I have.
I think we'll get
I'd be
to it
flexing
now.
that.
Dave won't flex winning Ardicon, but Liddle's flexing winning fucking another unexpected adventure.
There's levels to these things, man. There's levels to these things.
Yeah,
but no, my Ardicon 2017 was SPG World Champion at the time. Actually, at time of recording, we're a couple of weeks away from Ardicon. I just got my ticket for it today.
Maybe a repeat?
Well, hopefully that'd be great. I mean, I'll be going down. I'm playing in the Ardicon Masters and the main tournament as well, which I think would be something nice for us to cover in a bit of time.
How did you get into the Ardicon Masters, David?
That's a good question, but we do touch on that with our interview with Andy Stone, so I'm not going to spoil it completely.
Spoil the interviews.
But we do. Scotland does now have a system open, which is Liddle's Last Lions tournament, where you can qualify for the Ardicon Masters, and I'm not going to spoil exactly how I got in, but we'll leave that for the next episode. But yeah, I dare say we'll touch on Ardicon within the next couple of times.
An event, you know.
Yeah. So I guess to summarise, I mean, you don't. I guess it doesn't really matter in terms of if people go down. I think we're quite good with if we do perform well the English events, we do. We're not really. There's no bickering about that. I mean, I think we are quite good, but we'll try and like support each other in terms of doing well at English events. But it might not necessarily translate into Top Scot. But I found it with Top Scot that it's a bit more because of the reality is for us to have any competition within Scotland in the GBHL league. I know there's the region. The region's good, but the overall league, it's we're a bit away from that just now, for various reasons, such as we don't have many 100-point events, and most importantly, we don't win them, which is a bit of an issue.
Pretty key.
I think there's travel plays into it big time. I think getting to the getting down to a reasonable amount of 100s requires you to go to England consistently, which is a bit of a struggle. And if you want to be competing as one of the best players in the UK, you have to be going to 100s consistently, and that's quite hard to do if you're based in Scotland. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time.
I think people are capable in terms of like the skill. I think we'll come on to this another week, but it's in terms of the quality of practice. The guys down there are such good players. They all play against each other. They all get better. Whereas I think that there's been a smaller kind of player base. It slows that down a bit. But Ian McGregor, more commonly known as Eon, had a bunch of events last year. We were all, I think, a few streamed events as well, actually, on Twitch or whatever it was, YouTube.
Yeah.
And he was in the kind of like the final hurdle to get over that line for 100-point events. So, and also obviously Dave as well, going to the 100-point event over in Ireland. So it's possible, but in terms of Top Scot, there's a bit more like, I guess, feedback would be the word. Like you feel like you do well at a 90-point event, and then you check Top Scot, and it's like instant sort of like class where I'm at and things. So there's definitely a great place for it.
Well, those super quick at updating those rankings as well. Like, I mean, sometimes you go to the event and then come back, and a couple of hours later, there's Alan Liddle has posted in the Scottish Mid-Left Players event Top Scot update.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Shout out Liddle. Actually, right, that's a good point, because I'm going to move on. So we're talking about the actual placement at events, but there is also weekly community sort of what would you call it, quizzes and teasers and things that Liddle posts, which I think would be good to put a bit of a limelight on, not a limelight, a headlights, whatever the word is. What's that all about, Liddle? I mean, so do you want to explain that? Because maybe listeners are I mean, I used to see your posts. I don't contribute to them very often because I'm pretty rubbish. I know there's guys.
I don't know exactly when I decided to do it, but I started it last year. It was just a kind of thing to get that's it right there. I start Saturdays. On a Saturday at any given time. Sometimes it might be the Sunday if I've either forgot or I might be at a tournament, so I could be busy. But it'll be a random stat gets thrown up, and whoever gets it right, I'll just obviously give them a point. And there's just like a wee gold trophy at the end of the year.
But like this on the screen for audio listeners, if I've put on the screen just now like an example of this is sort of an example of what you post. This is 19th of July, Liddle. Is it every week or every 2 weeks? I don't. It's every week, right?
Yeah.
Every week.
I guess if you're a video listener, you can have a go at this.
There's only one time where I forgot to post it on the Sunday, but it was still early enough on the Monday that I was able to check that it was still Sunday somewhere in the world. So I was like, that's fine. We still get to keep the stats Sunday-ish.
Keep it alliterative.
One thing I do know is if you're entering, so how do you enter, Liddle? It's through Facebook, right? You just comment on the
it's just
post?
on the Facebook, the Scottish Mid-Left Players page. My post will pop up some point during the weekend, I guess. Mainly Saturdays. And you just comment on the post saying, obviously, your answer. You've only got one shot.
Yeah. And spelling, grammar, everything has to be spot on, right?
I mean, loosely. I did try it to make sure that you gave the people the correct title, because pretty much everybody was just getting it in one go. And I was just like, nah, this isn't great. I want to see people trip up, make mistakes. So I was like, nah, I want the full title. But then that didn't go down too well, so it was just straight back to, just give me the guy's name, go for it.
Maybe you could hide one of the stats. So for the audio listeners again, there's a stat line on the screen just from the rules book. I believe, is it first come first serve for points? Is it I always know there's a mad rush to answer first. Is that how it works?
Answers correctly first will gain the point.
There's only one person per week.
one person per week. But, I mean, that's still 52
And some
points.
people are rapid with it.
I know that's why
Yeah, I mean, I
I'm getting
still
mad.
find someone that I'm like, that'll maybe trip somebody up, and then it's just boom, the first person to
Yeah.
comment gets it right away, and I'm like, Jesus God. The only
amount of
ones that I
weeks
tend to
that-
trip people up are the ones that could be duplicate profiles. So then it would have to be, well, it's a Mordor orc captain rather than an Isengard orc captain, and then it's just like 50-50.
Why don't you like hide one of the stats, like hide the attacks or something?
I could do that, a nice wee like lovely edit and me just putting a red dot over a stat. That could be for next year.
Do an interesting twist on it if you posted a full profile of something but changed something in the profile.
Because I just
Yeah, people would
assumed
spot that.
that obviously for about 6 months we were stuck with one book, the one book to rule them all. Oh no, we did have Hobbit. I'm sorry, we had 2 books.
We had 2.
Doesn't it quite actually run off as well? But it was getting a bit boring because a lot of profiles are just like, oh, that's Aragorn. There's a Ringwraith. A lot of people stood out, so it was just a bit. I was running out like options. I can remember last year I did manage to catch someone out by putting Fatty Bulger up. Like someone commented thinking it was Merry Pippin. I was like, yeah, fell for it.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've got this one here that Andrew Kerr, we all know him well. He got Nazthak Orc Captain. I mean, I wouldn't have got that.
Again,
no
I thought
It's a profile I've ever used.
given the fight value and the shoot value, I was like, probably somebody will think it's an orc, but there's a lot of named orcs out there.
I knew that one right away. I knew exactly who it was. I was like, that's that wee orc that has the ability to steal weapons and stuff off of people, but could I remember his name? I was like, nah, I can't remember this guy. I know it's definitely him. And then by the time I eventually got the name,
that way. You're absolutely
typed it
that
in,
way.
Andrew Kerr's hit the button
Andrew
about 2
Kerr's
seconds
owns
before
you,
me.
mate.
He stole my point off me.
Yep. Because he knew
This
it.
happens nearly every
you had
week.
to search that shit. Like, he just knew it. Boom. But the amount of times, Dave, where, like, last year, you were, like, seconds behind the other person. Like, I'm just sitting there refreshing Facebook because I've noticed that 2 people 1 minute ago have sent me, I've commented, and I'm like, oh, Jesus, right, refresh. And then as soon as one of them goes to 2 minutes ago, I'm like, right, okay, they've got it. But the amount of times that you were picked, like, within seconds, because I refresh it again just out of curiosity, and then it was like David Reed commented 2 minutes ago, and I'm like, all right, he's missed it again, within 20 seconds or something.
Who, speaking of Stat Saturdays, I guess who is currently the top man or woman in Stat Saturdays at the moment? Who's winning?
Michael Wetton is running away with it at the moment.
Really?
How many points does he have?
He's got 8 points.
Who's
That's
second?
quite a lot, actually.
Who's second?
Second is Andrew Kerr on 5. So he's
That's closer than I thought it would be, actually, when you said 8.
I mean,
fair,
well, Ian
between
McGregor
them,
won it
they've got
last
like
year with
half
9, I think.
So between the 2 of them, they've got like half the weeks of the year that have been passed so far.
Yeah, that's wild.
I'll just go back to
It's quite impressive, guys.
last year. Oh no, Ian McGregor won it last year on a tiebreaker on 8. So Michael Wetton has already got last year's points.
So you might be tough to catch, but
And
you can still
he's
give
not
it a
actually
go.
got one.
Weeks.
He's never got one
Still-
in quite some time. So he's had 8 points for quite a while.
There's still plenty of weeks in the year though for people.
Yeah,
that are,
I mean, anyone
if
could
it's a new
jump
list.
in and win it. Like Dave Farmer jumped in the other week there and got one, so he's on the board. Like, so this
if you're a listener
wee
and
gold trophy
you
might
think
be going
this-
down to England.
I think it would be fun.
That'd be
then
fun.
just get on the Scottish Middle Earth players page on a Saturday and
He
for
can come up to
Liddle to
Last
post
Alliance
stuff
and
and-
get it
Yeah.
away. I mean, if he's wanting
So
that wee
they-
gold trophy, then he can come up and maybe win a wooden one.
I mean, this is just is this just a sign of how bad we are as players? We're resorting to quizzes and trivia.
Resort to this, and English are still getting
Speaking
that
of
was the
quizzes,
other
though,
thing,
'cause there
obviously,
is-
like,
Armour's still coming up and farming our events, man. What's going on?
Last year, of course, that people seem to be enjoying Stat Saturdays. So I was like, right, I don't do enough for the Scottish community, so what would be
You
a good
do not.
idea? Right, I've got these like random quiz books. Right, but how can I quiz? Like, what goes with what other words are there for quiz? Trivia Tuesdays, right? So every Tuesday at 2 o'clock-ish. Again, I'm usually working, so it's like I need to bring that quiz book with me to work, and then I'll just sneak away to the van. It's just it's 3 questions, and you need to get every one of them right in order to gain the point. Otherwise, I feel like it'd be far too easy. But it still seems to be. Well, it catches people out a lot more than Start Saturdays anyway. But I feel like he asked who was winning Start Saturday just so he could be named for currently winning Trivia Tuesdays, which is David Reed.
And be named the winner.
I kind of gathered that when I jumped back in there. That's exactly you were explaining stuff. If you didn't know the answer, you were just hoping that someone could get 2 out of 3 right and then give you the missing answer that you didn't know.
I've stole a couple of them, to be fair, to make up for the stats that people have
Well, I
sniped
mean,
there.
that's a lot closer than Start Saturdays, at least. Yourself's only sitting on 5 points, and you've got Fraser sitting on 4. And then, do we have a 3? Chris Murfitt's got 3, and then a bunch of 2s.
Big
But
stuff.
I mean, you've still got the one question to spare for Fraser because you're sitting above him and Top Scot being the tiebreaker for both Start Saturdays and Trivia Tuesdays. Figured there has
Is
to be
that the same
something.
tiebreaker for all of the non-gaming awards? So, like, is Top Scot position the tiebreaker for painting and sporting and
Yes.
these sort of things as well?
I mean, it may as well be something. There has to be something, so it may as well be that.
Yeah, so I guess if you're wanting to take part in these sort of quizzes and things Liddle puts up, they're quite cool. Just join the Facebook page if you're not on it already. Again, don't worry about getting things wrong. 'Cause, I mean, we've played the game for years, but it doesn't always really matter. Just fire your answers in.
At the end of the day, it's
Um,
just a bit of fun, really. I mean, it's the wee gold trophies that you'll maybe see in Asda that I've picked up.
yeah.
It's not much. Alex Murdass
Big
is
it up a
kind
bit
enough
more
to.
than that.
No, I'm just being honest. Like, I get Alex Murdass at least. He's kind enough to write paint on like Start Saturdays 2024, obviously it'll be 2025 this year, and no, the winner won't be on it for that because the Scottish finale will be before like the last Saturday / Tuesdays of the December, so it'll still be running come the end of the year.
And they're a good bit of fun, an extra bit of way to get involved with the community and stuff, and especially even if you're like someone that can't make many tournaments, but you're still on the page and you, it's
Yeah,
a
I
thing
mean,
you can join
it gets you
in twice a
involved
week,
if
which
you're
is
not
good
getting to
fun.
that many events. There's still something there for everyone. And again, it doesn't take very much. It's just a case of, are you looking at Facebook at the right time?
That I wanted to kind of end this on sort of like more of a kind of a bit of patter section where I've asked Mark to come up with an idea, a change for the game. I mean, I think we all moan a scary amount about what changes we should make, but predominantly it's just because we're bad at the game or the dice were bad or whatnot. But unfortunately, we can't change that. Ask Mark, come up with an idea. What would you want to change? Convince us 3 if you can. What change and why? Mark, what would you do?
Well, this is one that I think I've been wanting to change for a while, and it actually got more prominent in the new edition as well, which is a little bit of a pain for me. Certainly something that matters, I think, probably more to the competitive players than it does to anybody else. But the big thing that I'd want to change from the current edition that wouldn't change anything too core to the game, it'd be the removal of VPs for having banners and scenarios, and the removal of additional VPs from any source outside of the scenario in the game at all. So things like currently the Expedition to Moria gets VPs for holding more objectives in objective scenarios than their opponent. Dragons have the ability to pick up bits of treasure that they can pick up off of enemy models to get VPs eventually. And you've also got the Garrison of Athelion has the ability to get VPs just for having Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol on the battlefield. Those sorts of little ways of getting VPs are something I'd definitely get out of the game just for stealing what I see anyway as unearned victories away from you when your
Salty,
opponent doesn't have any
salty.
way to score those VPs at all. Seems insane to me that you can, especially with the case of banner VPs, where a lot of armies just don't have access to banners at all, say Thranduil's Halls or something like that. You can start the game 2 or 4 VPs down, which just seems wild to me.
That's more my gripe about the game is the fact of just taking banners off of people just because they didn't supply models, and you're not allowed to convert now. Like I know Thorin and the Ravenhill list counts as a banner for VPs, but
Yeah.
there's so many heroes out there that are a banner effect, like Thor or King Aragon, Elisar,
Thranduil.
but don't count as a banner for banner VPs.
Yeah.
There's a bit difference for like Aragon because he's like 3 fate, he's a tank. Like Thor, he's defense 9, okay, and with the Arkenstone ability, great, but like it's just they've got 2 troop choices.
Yeah,
Quite a
see,
few named heroes, fair enough, but they
I
can't get a
think
banner, therefore they can't score VPs for having a banner.
the issue I have is like so. I want to try and play devil's advocate and argue your point a little bit just for talking's sake. I think I agree that it's frustrating that you can start 4 points down. My problem though is not necessarily about the scenario giving you points for it. It's just the fact that every army can't have it. That's sort of more where I lie because like if everyone had access to banners, then I wouldn't mind it as much. But like being a Halls player, like it really annoys me. But there's definitely. I mean, how many scenarios is there? 12. There's 12 scenarios now, isn't there?
Yeah, I can get that up for you.
How many of them are
now.
banners? Did you say 4, Liddle?
No, there's 24 scenarios.
No,
9 have banner VPs.
There are. There's 6 that award 2 victory points for banners, and there are 3 that award up to 4 victory points for banners.
I think,
out
although
of
it's a bit of
24,
a
so just over a third have banners of some kind involved.
Yeah, so you can avoid it a bit depending on the tournament pack. If you've got if you're playing the tournament, you know that you've got that there's banner scenarios involved. You can try and avoid those armies.
Yeah, but it's a shame for
I
those
don't
people
like
that
the
have
fact
an
that you
army.
have to avoid. Yeah, exactly, and
Aye.
especially if you're coming from last edition. I mean, I've got umpteen different armies that had the access to banners last edition, and I've
Playing
converted. And
competitively, I cannot see me touching my army of Thor because of banner VPs, because of the new
yeah,
rule.
well, and a number
cutting
of other
down.
things.
Oh no,
It's
yeah.
quite
Yeah,
shit.
there's
like
probably
the-
plenty of reasons
They're
to
the,
not
they're
be
the
here.
least appealing dwarf army now.
Yeah,
I mean,
by a mile.
they were probably the least appealing in the first place with the last edition, but they've just been hitting the head with a hammer now for me. They're
yeah,
still cool.
they
The
suffer a lot from it.
The named heroes are still cool, but they're just lacking in nearly every front. Like
They
I think I will
also-
say
2
for
troop choices,
the lack
they're
of
capped with 33% on the Grimhammers. They have to go two-handed.
Liddle. We're talking about banners.
Yeah, we're not talking about fire army for rubbish.
What are
Leave
you
that to the
talking
side,
about,
but
mate?
I do think
Listen,
that
man.
one advantage of having the banner missions in there is it can take away a little bit of stalemates from games sometimes. There are sometimes where you are, because your opponent has a banner, you have to take some action, you have to play on the front foot.
Yeah,
And also sometimes that can play into your advantage, because if your opponent is like, well, I've got banner, I'm winning, I'm just going to sit back here and play a defensive game, that might not actually be the right call for them. It's the sort of
given
natural
scenario,
mindset that
yeah.
you would think. But it can get rid of some really boring stalemate games. But I do agree, and I think if I'm maybe blessed in that most of the armies I play do have access to banners, but I can see how it'd be frustrating for a Halls of Thranduil player or I'd say a Numenor player. Maybe your more battle line armies, I think not having banners in some of the all hero armies, I think that's fine because they tend to come with some other advantages in terms of really strong army bonuses and stuff like that. So them not having a banner I think is probably okay, but some of your traditional battle line armies being denied them is a shame. And I'd really love to see GW release some command packs or stuff in the future. Like that'd be really cool if they did that. But yeah, I doubt that'd be a thing, to be quite honest. Like, we've got the books that we've got for this edition, so I'd be very surprised if they were
Not having a banner
altered
being
them.
up against someone that does forces you to have to do that little bit extra by killing
Yeah.
their banner.
And it can also, in this, it's not necessarily the most common thing, but I've seen it happen, where it can force really negative games, or force the person with the banner to play very negatively. If they're going into the last game of the tournament with a significant lead, and they know they don't need a big win, and it's a banner scenario, they've got a banner, you don't, they're then encouraged to play in a very negative way, where they're not going to ever risk anything. Keep the banners behind their lines, keep the leader protected, do everything they can not to break, and if the scenario allows it, sit at the back of the board and play as slow as possible. Not necessarily slow playing you, but play a strategy that slows the game down.
That's part of the
And
reason why Sorry, Mark.
Oh, he's gone.
I guess at that
Where
point,
was it
though,
going?
the onus is on you as the player, especially if it's a case where like someone has a substantial lead in a tournament. The onus is always going to be on the person that's chasing them.
Yeah.
And that's on you to play more aggressively. It's on you to like maybe call heroic marches to get across the table a bit quicker, or to have stuff in your army to try and target those banners. They are a little bit less protectable than they used to be, because you can only pass them across now to troops that can carry banners. So if you've got like a mixed arms army, and maybe only one troop choice can actually carry the banner, unlike in the old edition where they could pass that on to any infantry, not just infantry, sorry, any troop model. They now can only pass it along to troops that could take a banner as their equipment choice, so they are maybe a little bit easier to kill. I'm just, like I said, trying to play a little bit of devil's
Yeah,
advocate.
I think my sort of like overall worry with it is not really, so it's kind of like what might become as a result, because I mean armies like Halls of Thranduil are still doing decently well at events. Probably like you're saying, there's sort of like maybe more events that get free banners as like a tournament rule, like a pack rule, or maybe the scenarios are predetermined that don't need banners. But what worries me about it a little bit is that if further, because just now there's still a lot of kind of theory hammering with what lists are good and whatnot, but like if a year down the line it's sort of like just becomes, you don't see certain lists purely for such a small thing like a banner situation. I mean, I don't know if that would happen, but like I mean, if armies are so sort of like strong, and you're having to start a game 4 points down, it might, I don't know, you might not see certain armies as a result. I'm not sure, to be honest.
You don't tend to
think
see
that
It's
much
only
of
one event.
Numenor and Army Thrower.
Yeah, but
The amount of events
Numenor
I've
has
been
its
to this
own
year, I've seen
range
them
of
a few
issues,
times,
right?
but not much.
I think there's definitely some armies that have been given compensation for it. Like, I mean, you mentioned we've seen Halls of Thranduil a number of tournaments and has done quite well in certain packs. I
The
think
GBHL
there's
Masters was
Yeah.
won by Halls of
Yeah.
Thranduil, so I mean that's arguably like one of the more competitive
Yeah.
events of the year, because you need to qualify, and that was won by a Halls of Thranduil player. So like shout out to Miles Sage for that, because I mean
What a
a lot of
guy.
people would look at that and go, it doesn't have
What
a
a
banner,
guy.
how can it be winning this big event? But like it is
Casper will be
possible.
messaging him
for
now.
sure. I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
armies that that will get by without it. There's a lot of armies that don't have access to banners, and it hurts them quite a lot. Army of Thrower having previously been mentioned. I think
Let
ultimately
me
there's
tell you
always
about
going to
Army
be
Thrower.
there's always going to be armies that are going to be bad in any edition. It's the case all the time, and the reasons for them, whether it's related to banners or not, I guess doesn't really make a difference. It's more I've found having banner VPs in the game can lend itself to frustrating losses, regardless of whether or not it can be balanced.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm some
Or
people have
even
now
bigger
taken
losses when it shouldn't have been.
Yeah, and I think it's even more frustrating in the case of armies that get access to VP rules that no one else has any access to at all, even outside the banners. Like if I was playing a game, not that it's particularly common, but if I was to play a game and lose, because in theory, if I'm playing against
Frodo,
Athelion,
Sam, and
they have
yeah,
if they have all three of those heroes and they have a banner, and you're playing the right
Yeah.
scenarios and you don't have a
That's
banner, they
7
can
VPs.
start 7-0 up.
just get good.
That's where I'm gonna I'm going to argue for that, actually, is that, like,
Oh, Dave Reid.
taking Frodo, Sam, and Gollum probably is making your army affiliate list worse.
It definitely
So,
does.
being rewarded for taking some cool characters in the form of VPs and make it like nerfing your army, I think isn't a bad thing. And
Making
Depending on the points.
VPs the reward, I think,
If
is
it's
a
big enough
very
points,
boring
they
way of
don't
doing
eat
that.
into you as much.
yeah, I mean, if you're playing 1,000 points, fair enough.
No, I
But
didn't mean that big, but
But if you've
and then
you've
links
got
of Reclamation sort of more or Reclamation of Moria as well. Like again, it's probably well known that like that sort of Casa Doom style dwarf lists are like that's very close to my heart. But I do think having played a little bit about with the 3 different dwarf factions now that Kingdom of Casa Doom is just better. So having Reclamation of Moria, you're giving up quite a lot of stuff to take it. So rewarding them with a cool thing of here's a couple of VPs. I don't think it's such a bad thing, and you're very rarely going to flip. Maybe, yeah, like maybe you flip a 1 VP loss into a 1 VP win. Maybe you flip a draw into a 2 VP win because of that. But it's not hidden information. Your opponent knows that this is the case going
yeah,
into the
there's
game.
still some extra
like-
things your opponent has to deal with.
which, like in theory, I mean, I agree, I can agree with that in principle in reference to some rules. However, I think that's a very frustrating and boring way of doing it. If you're gonna reward people for taking these interesting characters, in the case of the Athelian list, I think you may as well give those characters some rules that do something fun or do something interesting,
Yeah, I
rather
can
than
get
saying
behind
just
that.
have some VPs, and then if you want to protect those VPs, those characters are near enough useless for that list. I mean, the ring's helpful, but Smeagol and Sam aren't doing much for you a lot of
The
the
heroic
time.
combat from Sam is
Yeah, you can
pretty
get the
nice,
combat
and
from
you can
Sam,
set
that's
it up with
helpful.
Faramir as well, and you can do some good things there. And the ring's very well. The ring's less useful in this edition.
It's less useful in this edition, and in that army, there's not really. I mean, there's Faramir
Yeah.
who's decent, but it's been pretty heavily nerfed. I think spending all those points, I think a lot of the time, the most value you're going to get out of them is maybe get heroic combat off here and there with Sam, but then hide them in a building and leave them there for the
Yeah,
end of the game, try
I
and keep them
think
safe.
there's definitely a bigger incentive to take 2 banners now, and not just the one. You
Yeah.
take 2.
Yeah, we
And-
felt that a lot at WTC. That was interesting.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you ran 2 banners, didn't you? In your
I
day,
ran 2
both of
banners,
yous,
and
actually.
it got me in this. I mean, that was a game that this wouldn't have made a difference if there was VPs or not. But one of the games that I played against the French was against the Glute Scouts. We both had 2 banners, which was absolutely the correct choice on his part. And we were playing to the death. So if he walks at me, he's D5. I'm playing Dale. I'll mince him. Hid the whole army behind 2 cliffs right at the back of the board from the get go, and
Yeah.
forced a draw. But it was something that was very prominent at WTC. I feel loads of folk were taking 2 banners, and I think there was one Dale list there that didn't take 2 banners, and from what I saw, it hurt them a lot.
See,
I
this,
think from memory, I think it had a banner and a warhorn instead.
Oh,
I
I
played
see.
against it
Definitely
actually in
played.
mirror match.
Oh yeah, you played against it in a mirror,
same
didn't you? And
po-
you
the same
added 2
points
banners to its 1.
But
Yeah.
when you were doing that, Mark, I think I must have been playing the Isengard, who were under the impression that they were playing Lords of Battle.
Oh,
Yeah, that was quite fun when they were running
it's an
forward with
interesting
their banner.
mistake to make at
And I was like,
WTC.
yes, banner, please, come at me. And they never even thought for a second why I was hiding my banners behind, like, rocks with a body to pick it up if necessary. But
That's
he thought he
push
was
on
doing
that.
well because he was probably ahead in Lords of Battle kills. But
See, I've seen an interesting take on this, right? Is that put your shoes in the Thranduil Halls player. Like, if it's at low points, it just kind of means that they're saving 25 points and not paying for a banner. I mean, you still get the banner effect on your leader. And also, I
for
guess if
helps,
you
that's like 2 guys though.
yeah, well, still, I mean, if someone's taking 2 banners to make sure that, like you're saying, they get the VPs, it's like 50 points. I don't know. I mean, this is a major
Well, you
cop,
can see
like,
it in
because
some games, yeah. But I mean, it's small points. There's very niche armies that will want to take 2 banners. Like lots of scouts will possibly want to take 2 banners at small
Yeah.
points.
Yeah, it's
Lack
a
of
bit of a
spears, of
cope,
Yes,
course.
really.
probably because of lack of spear
But
and lack any innate rerolls.
this is part of the reason my next event, shout out, is deliberately not got any banner VP missions.
Would you consider sort of tangenting a little bit, but would you consider just allowing people to take a banner for cost, just pay 25 points and put it on a trip? Or would
I
you
did
see
say
that
that at
as
the
a
start of the
events
year,
do it.
but every time I went to write a pack, I kind of forgot to add that in.
It's something that's been spoken about a lot. I know there's an event coming up. Well, I don't want to commit to anything because I believe I don't think everything's decided about it. But I've heard some chat about one of Fraser's events and potentially having a rule where they could take banners on anybody.
Yeah, I've seen some events do it, providing people, of course, have the model, which maybe you could argue gives a slight advantage to long-term players because some people might still have their Warrior Numenor with banner that they used in the old edition, and
Did they not
maybe a
use-
newer player might
Did they
not want to
previously have a
convert someone
model,
up for
right?
one event.
There is a model for Numenor banners, or am I?
No.
I can't remember. There's not.
So
I mean,
everyone I've seen anyway has been a conversion.
right. It must be then.
It's a strange thing though, is the fact that they don't actually have a model for a Numenor captain either.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of that going
but
on with a lot of the older armies and things. I mean, I played a bit of Mahood for a little bit of time and playing their tribes masters and things. Even though the picture of the model in the book is just a converted warrior.
Mate, don't
That's,
talk to him about
again, the Numenor
Gil-galad.
captain.
What about Gil-galad and his shield? That's. I think that's going to hurt
What
me for
shield,
the rest of the edition.
That shield that he's holding in a picture in the
When?
the
in the
When did
picture
they ever
of
have a
Profa.
shield?
Last edition, mate. That's all that matters. And a
That was
horse.
another elf warrior that was just like hovering in front of him.
Honestly, I'm so salty 'cause I spent a lot of time converting on the foot to like move his arm to actually hold the shield and everything. So like,
And
Don't
then,
worry,
and
for
then
a
wasted,
future segment on me moaning about other rules, equipment changing will be there.
yeah.
again, as a
It's going to
TO, I
be
see quite a
Mark
lot of points.
trashes the new edition.
Basically,
As a TO, I see a lot of lists coming in that are not, or like are a few points shy, whereas in that wouldn't be the case in the old edition because it would just be like, you have a spear. I'm
Yeah,
3
did you
points
not
down.
like?
You 3 guys have spears.
Did you not allow in your first event of the edition? You allowed like old war gear and everything, so you could still have like spears on your bows. I'm pretty sure. Did you not do that?
For AUE, another unexpected event, yeah, probably did.
I think you did, but I mean,
But then again, when it came to the Middle Earth Games, that's AKA nothing else.
yeah, you
It was just a
actually you missed
copy.
me talking about that event.
It was copy and paste from the other pack, and then I kind of, as I said, I kind of forgot to add that in.
I think that yeah, it probably suits you because you've been playing the game how long now? 20 years, and even to this date, you didn't have spears on half your bows. Done none,
25.
and you still did not have spears on your bows.
Which ones are you talking about?
You're
Because all
Rivendell.
my high elves and Galadrim warriors with bows have spears on the back of them, and I am not
Right.
ruining them. No,
I
they do.
no chance. They maybe used to. They've all been snapped off, but there was
No,
no
I'm not. I'm
chance.
not wasting my paint job on them. Like I don't paint models. I can't be bothered with it, so I'm not going to ruin the ones that I've already painted by snapping off a spear.
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
unfortunate that having I had a bunch of converted Lothlorien guys with spears in the back and all the rest of them that all had to come off.
Yeah.
Bit of a
I have
shame.
tons, but I think I have enough that don't have the spears to make do. So
Yeah. Annoyingly, my
largely fine.
Lothlorien collection was entirely built around the idea of allying them with Rohan, which is gone.
You can still use Defenders of
Nice.
Helm's Deep.
Defenders of Helm's Deep.
Defenders Helm's Deep.
I can do defenders. That's true.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Immediately
yeah,
shut
that's
down
probably
by all 3 of us there.
yeah, yeah. So I guess so. To recap, then, so do I agree? Do we agree with Mark? Where's the general consensus, Dave? I guess we should
Yeah.
maybe summarize the points. So the point then, just to recap, was that we should, because we kind of went off topic, Mark. You swayed off your point because your point was the scenarios are the problem. What would you change?
I think that the removal of banner VPs within the scenarios and VPs that come from sources out with the scenarios. So, like the Expedition to Moria rule, the rule that comes
Yeah.
with Garrison the Athelian, I think the removal of banner VPs and those sorts of rules basically would lead to less frustrating losses.
In their
Dave.
defence, because of bumped by the VPs up to 20, the VPs had to come from somewhere.
Yeah, that's definitely a point
And
we haven't really spoke about
that's
yet.
what I was expecting. As soon as
Yeah.
we had 3 of the 6 scenarios we were given at the start all had banner VPs, and I said that to people that I was like, I'm expecting the banners to feel like they're just getting shoehorned in order to make the points up to 20, because it's going to be
I mean,
quite difficult.
in the last edition, if it was the same thing with the banners, then it would be a joke. You would pretty much would have to have a banner because there's only like you wouldn't get up to
12
20.
VPs.
Yeah, only went to 12. But that's a thing we haven't. I think there's.
I think the
I agree.
general and break to me should be worth more all over the place. Like there are
I
some that
think
are
it's one of these
worth
things where
more than
actually there's
3-1,
Liddles and left
3-1,
again. But I think
but
Yeah.
I just
in
think again you've bumped up to
as
20.
it plays out,
Why is that not like a
I don't know if it
4-2?
comes into play
In
as
a lot of
much
cases.
as you'd think it would. But I do agree. Actually, I mean, Dave, where do you stand? Then you seem on the fence.
I think that I'd like to see things play out a bit. I think right now, I don't think I've had that many games in this edition that have been decided entirely because of banner VPs or because of external VPs. Certainly, if those armies that offer external VPs were becoming like problematic in
Yeah,
some
you
way,
can start
they were.
losing all your events to throw those salmons. You go.
Aye, yeah.
You're just
I mean, I'm
getting
going to try my
farmed
best
off
to
them.
win some games with Expedition, to win some events with Expedition Moria, try and get them on the podium list. But I don't think that the armies that offer those extra VPs are top tier by any means.
What about
And I think
the actual banners then? So we rule out the
I'd
random
like
ones.
to see more banners available for more armies, and I think like the ones that we've mentioned there in terms of armies of Fror, Numenor, and Halls of Franville, it would be nice for those to have some banners. And if that was the case, I wouldn't have any issues at all with banner VPs being a thing. With them not having it, I do feel a little bit bad for the players that play those armies, but I'd rather just see how it plays out. I think there's enough events nowadays where, I mean, just as a slight aside, but fantastic thing about the game is the variety of tournaments, and the fact we've now got 24 match play scenarios. Is the scope for TOs to just not use the banner ones, which I think is maybe a little bit shame, but also the scope for TOs to call out in advance that they are using them, so you know. You can tailor your armies to
even
what
when it
is
comes
in the
to
pack.
randomly roll scenarios, you're still like, I'm going to have to take a banner army because it might show up. Like there's a good chance with the amount of scenarios there is. Like
That still happened in the last edition, though.
Yeah,
With
happened in
yeah,
the
but
last
it didn't
edition
feel
as
like
well.
it didn't feel like as much because it wasn't as much points.
So I think that I'd stay on the fence, to be quite honest. I don't think it's as big an issue as a lot of people
GBHL
do.
representative staying on the fence.
Yeah,
Who'd have seen that coming?
But I stay on the fence, but I will say that I don't think it's as big an issue as people make it out to be. So maybe I'm slightly on the other side of the fence to issues.
Bought and paid for this, man.
Yeah. He's got a gun held like Dave Farmer. I don't know why Dave Farmer. Who's it? Why isn't he even in the GBHL?
Dave Farmer is the owner of the GBHL and GW.
People don't think he's the only man.
I don't know how much
I don't know this game. There's about 4 shout-outs.
Ali King. He's
I don't know
on
what
Dewey Evans is now in charge of the GBHL, if that's who you're referring to.
Is there actually a gaffer of the GBHL? Like
yeah, Dewey Evans is the league coordinator, and you mentioned Ali King. He was the previous league coordinator.
They pay
that's
wages.
just the person at the head of the committee who sort of is the person chairing all the meetings and I guess the point of contact for people if people want to.
When you do pay for your tournaments, like you do pay Mr. David Reed on PayPal.
You do, yes. I guess I'm the original GBHL treasurer, so my name is still on the PayPal.
Taxman, you're taking everyone's money.
I don't know how much you heard before, once again getting cut off, but I was pretty much saying that I would have liked to have seen more points available for breaking in general. A lot of the time it seems to be still 3-1, 3-1. And again, going up to 20 points, it feels like there was a bit missed there. I feel like a lot of the times it should be 4-2 or higher.
I think in a lot of places, the going up to 20 points has been filled in with banner VPs where it could have been, you could have put in something more interesting with something like, I don't know, kill the opponent's lowest point hero or some other little side quest that's maybe a bit more interactive.
I think there's one scenario where there's something to do with killing your opponent's highest cost hero that's not the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean things like that would be more interesting. Stuff like
It's coming up in the event that's coming up this weekend, the Line of Urine 2. Jack's actually accidentally managed to
Shout
do
out, yeah.
4 scenarios that are not got banner VPs in them. I noticed that when I
Yeah.
was looking at them.
ideal.
Yeah, I would
And then
have
handed
loved
it
it.
That's something we
Dwarven
might
Ring that
see
gives a
deliberately
Yeah.
in some ways as
I
well.
asked him and he was like, "Oh, that was good." I was like, "Alright, you didn't know." Right.
that's still suit a lot of people.
For Rule 2, I was sitting there with like all of them wrote out in front of me, thinking to myself, right, okay, I want like the 6 we've had for the last 6 months, can them, job done, out the road. Right, anything that's got banner VPs, get rid of them, boom, job done. The ones that I personally don't like retrieval, just because of the diagonal deployment, it's just a pain to try and deploy like that.
It's difficult.
Get rid of it. And it was just
There's
narrowing it down
There's
so
another
it
one
then
slightly odd.
became. Sorry?
There's another one with slightly odd. Is it Stake the Claim that's got slightly odd deployment as well, where you start in like a Storm the Camp-esque bubble in the middle of the board, in the middle
Treasure
of
I
your
think if you
half
get a
board.
treasure hoard that has
Oh,
a
that
kind
treasure
of
hoard.
curved deployment, which I quite like actually. I think that's quite
I
cool.
don't mind that because you can easily
Again,
do a
we are
12-inch
getting
bubble rather than an invisible line in the middle of the board, which of course there's going to be
Is
terrain
it big
everywhere.
enough to handle stuff like Goblin Town Hordes, 90 odd model Moria?
Probably not. But then you just kind of hope that it's certain events they don't use that when they're choosing scenarios, if it's big enough points.
It's funny because in 40k, as a random, we're tailing off here, but I'm sure if you can't deploy it, it just dies. I remember like there was a point in 40k where people would have like loads of flyers, like the vehicles, and if it didn't basically wouldn't fit in your deployment, or if the wings sort of like hang over the edge of the table, it just dies. Like, and it depended on who was enforcing it, but that was actually the FAQ rules. Actually nuts, because obviously with Smaug, like you have to deploy them like in Storm the Camp or whatever. Like, it'd be funny if he just died. You don't get to play the game.
Can't fit him.
Yeah.
But good,
Well, I mean, we might, if we're going to be covering events, we might get on to Defence of the Hornburg at some point, which did have a couple of Smaugs flying around.
Smaug, yeah. I
Just die is
just
what
imagine that
Smaug
in
was
the-
doing best, to be fair. So
imagine that in
we might
Treasure
get to
Hoard
that
where
in the coming
your
weeks.
TO's placed like an impassable bit of terrain in that 12-inch bubble, and then you just can't fit the Smaug on the board to begin with.
And they just lose.
Yeah, I played against Dave when you used Smaug actually up in Elgin, and it's like you just like so scared you're gonna break your model. No, like, every time you put it on the table, well, not you
It's a
personally,
little bit like that, yeah.
but it's like with the terrain. I mean, I would. That's just not fun for me. Like,
Dave gave me my first ever GBHL singles game against this Smaug.
Dave's dodgy, man. He keeps half the rules
was
to
grim.
himself. And then actually,
Turn 1 in heirlooms, he walks on the board, rolls a 6, picks up the heirloom, and goes, "Sorry, new player, get fucked."
no chance. You have the heirloom.
It was great. It was
and
terrible.
Smaug.
I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was running Hunter Orcs with Azog and Yazneg and Narzig.
Welcome to the scene.
Yeah,
Big
it was
Dave.
great.
It's always nice to welcome new players, and to be fair, it seems to have worked. Like, you're here.
That's true.
That's
mate.
true.
Yep.
This is all just built off of rage from that one game.
You got your own back. I really, to be honest,
To
I
be fair,
don't know.
he's not played much this year, so this is maybe just like finally
that's true.
broke into him. Like, fuck this game.
I feel like I could have killed Smaug. I feel like when you lose to it, the experience wasn't so bad that I didn't want to play it again. But I feel like you want to try and kill him, but it just never really happens.
I think there's a lot of scenarios can give you a lot of play against them.
yeah,
I
played
struggled a lot with
Battle.
not having a clue what I was doing.
yeah. Not a good
That
intro
was like
to the
3 years
game,
ago.
but yeah. I don't. If you're just getting into the game, I don't think Smaug's an army a model to buy to play. But
Very expensive money-wise for the
Yeah.
start as well, and just also tricky to paint
I think
and build.
It's not one that you want to
Um,
mess up painting, like with it being 400
No,
quid.
definitely
I think
not.
Stuart Callahan selling it. Has anyone have any interest?
And wants to
I think it's
remortgage their
450.
house.
What, he
It
bought
might
it
be
off Jakey, right?
450 now.
Yeah. Anyway, we're gibbering on, and this is meant to be a shorter episode. Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. Like I say, hopefully
You
we
want
get a
a-
bit better at doing this. What are you saying, Liddle?
You want a breakdown of positions in Top Scot?
we'll save that for next week. Hopefully, this is sort of just a pilot to get the ball rolling.
That's fine.
We're going to cover more of the events in a bit more detail next time, get the lists up. Hopefully I won't pee my pants when I'm doing the intro next time either. I don't know if I'll have to go and re-record that. But yeah, like I say, thanks for listening or watching wherever you've came from. We're hoping to get these out maybe every other week, but we'll see though. Maybe end up being every other month, but get us out as soon as we can. Maybe next time we'll be reporting in with an Ardacon winner in our chat. Fingers crossed for Mr. Dave. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. And
Let us know if you want some merch, you know.
Yeah, if you want to make us some merch, yeah, you can. But yeah, all things to come. But cheers, guys. Catch you in a bit.
T-shirt with us face.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, boys.